How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Day 2 of Cloud Go-to-Market XP. Got some esteemed friends and colleagues, and our friend Jack is on a countdown to a tornado, so we're hoping he can stay with us the entirety of the session. But
Fingers crossed.
yeah, no doubt, man. Stay safe. Thanks everybody for being here. Just quick housekeeping. If you were here yesterday, you know the drill. If you weren't, welcome. If you're having any troubles with the platform, connectivity, anything else, feel free to reach out at marketing@tackle.io. We love the chat. There's a session, specific session, a public session, which kind of lasts all day, and then a Q&A as well. If you want to message your friends directly, there's a capability for that as well. We do have folks from Tackle, folks from our partners, and the ISV community watching the chat. And my favorite answers are the ones that come from other ISVs that have already navigated the same thing or have an opinion. So please ask questions and feel free to answer them as well. Share some best practices. If you need to duck out, take a meeting, bio break, whatever, all the sessions are recorded. We'll make them all available at the end of the event. And finally, we love social. So share on social, grab some screen grabs, share what you learned, your favorite talks of the last 2 days, and build some excitement for what we're all trying to build as an industry together. So this morning's session is about the evolution of cloud go-to-market and what's next. I show it back. So I've been in and around this world for about 10 or 12 years now. And it's really been fascinating to see how it's developed and how the ecosystem of partners is developing around the big cloud providers. And I'd like to thank Google Cloud, AWS, and ZoomInfo for sponsoring the event, and more importantly, for participating in the event. We heard from all of them yesterday. We got some awesome feedback on their presentations and the learnings they shared with all of us. Today, we're going to drill down a bit. Yesterday was kind of more C-suite executive level. Today, we're going to drill down in a little bit more of the how-tos. What are the best practices? What can we learn from other customers and other partners? So if you're curious about what does maturity look like inside of my ISV from the earliest days to a bigger motion, if you're wondering what a data-driven approach is, if you saw Dylan's session, his closing keynote yesterday, it was an awesome view into what we're doing today with data, but more importantly, where we think we can go. If you're talking to your CFO about sales efficiency and how to drive bigger deals faster, how to shore up budgets in a better way, today's the day for you. If you're wondering about co-sell, what does it mean for me? What does co-sell mean at all? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? I hear all sorts of things. We'll be talking about that. There were some awesome sessions yesterday from AWS and Google around that. There are more sessions today. And if you're worried about operational excellence, like I did this for 5 deals or 10 deals, but how do I do it for 100 or 1,000? We've got some great things planned for you today as well. So I'm Sanjay Mehta. I'm the Chief Cloud Officer at Tackle. My team is the stewards of our relationships with the big cloud providers, and we work extremely closely with the clouds in our product organization to make sure as new capabilities come out from AWS, from Google, from Microsoft, that we bring it to life for ISVs. And with hundreds of ISVs and billions of dollars in cloud go-to-market, we've got a pretty good idea about what ISVs need, and we take that responsibility very, very seriously. So today I'm joined by 4 colleagues, Thomas, Kevin, Christine, and Jack. I'll give each of you a minute to introduce yourselves, your company, your role in the company, and just for fun, and I didn't prompt you guys on this, so sorry, but maybe share if you got a favorite podcast or a favorite book that you're listening to that you think the audience could benefit from. I'd love you to share that as well. Thomas, we'll start with you.
Great to see everyone. I'm Thomas Bush. I lead and co-created our ISV Go Global program at DoiT International. We're a top global cloud partner in the space. And top podcast, put me on the spot. Recently, I got into Plan to the Gods. Highly recommend.
Awesome. The best questions are the ones you're not prepared for. That keeps it fun and lively.
Yeah.
kind of a layup though, as long as you're doing something. So Christine, how about you?
Hey everyone, my name is Christine Lee, and I am the VP of Global Partnerships at G2. You'll learn a little bit about G2 if you haven't heard of us in a few more minutes. Top podcasts. So interesting. Recently, I've been really getting into Good Morning Ecosystem, ran by Brian Garvey and the HubSpot team. It's been, as we start thinking about how do we scale out our ecosystem and how do we work with solution partners, it's been a very informative podcast for me to dial into.
Fantastic. And Kevin?
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Kriebel. I'm the SVP of Global Partnerships at Drata, Compliance Automation ISV. Favorite book is a book called Love Wins by a guy named Bob Goff, just about living a purpose-driven, kind of whimsical life. Just a collection of his stories that are pretty challenging for somebody who's sitting at a desk all day. So,
no doubt. And last but not least, Jack.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Jack French. So I head our cloud practice at Worldwide Technologies. So all things pre-sales, solution development. That includes marketplace and our managed consumption or resale business. I think for work, Cloudcast is the podcast that I try to stay up on. And then personal, this real survival stories I found myself listening to lately that has got me sucked in. Just crazy survival stories from people. So
awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing those. I listened to a podcast over the weekend. It was Brene Brown, Unlocking Us. I've followed her for the last 4 or 5 years, and she had a guest named Esther Perel who talked about the real AI, which was artificial intimacy. And the one-liner that resonated with me most was, I have 1,000 good friends, but none of them will take care of my cat. So I encourage you to tune into that one. All right, agenda-wise, I'm going to set the stage a bit, talk about the perspective that I've seen over the last decade or so. Before coming to Tackle 3 years ago, I lived inside of an ISV called Trend Micro, a multi-billion-dollar global company, and helped transform into SaaS and into a cloud go-to-market strategy. And now I have the pleasure of helping hundreds of our customers do the same. Then I'll share a special announcement. We're rolling it out today, so you're all the first to hear it. And then we'll dive in with our guests and learn more about how they're helping ISVs build this new revenue channel. All right, so if we look back on the history, like 10 years ago, 2014, 15, 16, cloud go-to-market and marketplace listing were kind of synonymous terms. And I remember executive meetings and boardroom discussions where a marketplace listing was like your badge of cloud validation. Like, I'm a cloud company. I have a partnership with Google. I'm in a marketplace. But we figured out that when you build it, they don't come. And a sea of buyers wasn't knocking at the doorstep to consume that listing. And that sparked the broader adoption of co-sell. Even though co-sell programs had already existed, kind of this marketplace dynamic and the lack of buyer demand really sparked the new generation of co-sell and the systems and the programs and the incentives that came along with it. But that brought like this unbridled enthusiasm and a little bit of confusion. Like some ISVs said, I'm going to share all of my pipeline with the cloud providers, and went with their hands out and said, I need help. Others said, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't understand. Maybe I also compete with the clouds in some way, shape, or form. I'm only going to share deals where I know I need really specific help that are really well qualified, that I'm about to close, and maybe I just need to find some budget. Others wrestled with new versus renewal. What should I share? And a lot of CFOs were saying, I don't know if I want to share anything and take a deal through a marketplace where back then you might be paying 13 to 20% in a listing fee. Today, 3% or less across all the major cloud providers. But a lot of confusion around what does this mean to my business? What does it mean to my margins? What does it mean to my traditional channel? And that spawned this need for data, which most commonly is referred to as propensity to buy, which is what are the deals that are most ripe for cloud co-sell? What are the deals that are most ripe for marketplace? And you started seeing this information feedback to ISVs so they could get more intentional about co-selling. They could raise the fidelity of the data they were sharing. They could ask for help more specifically. So that was a lot of fun. And then we saw the transition as revenue went from 0% to 2% to 5 or 10 or 20% of revenue. Suddenly we saw the C-suite paying attention. And most importantly, we saw the CRO raising their hand and saying, I want to control that. This is no longer an experiment in my alliances team and part of my cloud partnership. This is a part of my revenue engine and maybe the most meaningful part of my revenue engine. And my revenue engine lives inside of the tools I already use, primarily my CRM system and primarily Salesforce. So at Tackle, we've done a ton of work over the last year and a half to make sure when we bring things to life with the cloud providers, we bring it to life with the tools that our customers already use. And when we talked to those customers, we found some commonality. And we found that Tackle is one partner in that ecosystem, but there are actually many partners in that digital tech stack and that digital sales stack and partners driving real business transformation. So today, I'm extremely excited to announce Tackle's cloud go-to-market ecosystem. We have three main goals. The first is to support our ISVs in every way we can alongside our partners to make cloud go-to-market the preferred route to market for software companies. The next is to provide ISVs with the tools and expertise they need from the very earliest days of exploring cloud go-to-market through an at-scale motion that represents hundreds of millions of dollars. Or if you heard John's keynote yesterday, perhaps we'll see the first ISV do $1 billion in annual sales through Marketplace this year. And the last is to serve the cross-functional organization. We need to be a partner not just to the sales team, but to the product team in the back office, and the ecosystem is designed to meet all of those needs. We've set up our ecosystem in four main pillars, and we're going to hear about many of these today. The first is solution providers, then technology partners, channels and resellers, and finally, go-to-market services. We're really fortunate to have 11 launch partners today, names and logos on the screen.
Sorry, Sanjay, I don't think you're sharing your slides.
I'm not sharing my slides. That's a problem. I can see my slides being shared. All right, sorry about that, folks. Let me figure out why I'm not sharing slides. Thank you for calling that out. Can you see that now?
There we go. Gotcha.
Woo! All right, so you're on a Cloud GTM Ecosystem slide with 11 logos?
We are indeed.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Sorry for the confusion there. I'm staring at a screen that's being shared. So we have 11 great partners. To learn more about them, visit the Tackle website. We have some simple value props up there. And if you're interested in becoming a partner, we'd be delighted to talk to you. You can follow this link out on the website, reach out to us. We can talk about how you're sharing or serving your customers, how we're serving ours, make sure we have a great value prop to take to the market together. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Thomas at DoiT to talk about what we're doing together. We see solution providers as specialized organizations helping ISVs in cloud migrations, SaaSifying applications, helping with cloud cost management, but fundamentally helping in the business transformation that's happening inside of software companies. So with that, Thomas.
Thanks, Sanjay. And yeah, super grateful to be here. Excited about what Tackle's been doing for several years, but especially where we're headed together. So for those of you who haven't heard of DoiT, I'm going to give just a super quick high level. And as Sanjay said before, this is day 2. So my hope is that we can get pretty quickly into, hey, what does this look like for us? And what's some clear takeaways for you? So at DoiT, we've got 3 big pillars, which are represented on the top with the Solve, Advantage, and Navigator. So fundamentally, we provide best-in-class enterprise support, advisory, consulting. DoiT Advantage is, for those of you who might have known DoiT years ago, our primary business model back then was being a reseller. And we still lean into that today and provide a lot of value and cost optimization. And then our third big pillar is the DoiT Navigator. This is our cloud cost management tool, single pane of glass for multi-cloud and ISV data, cost intelligence, and automated reporting so that you can take all of the noise in the cloud spin space in a granular, custom way, create reports and intelligence that mean something to your business leaders. So what I thought would be really helpful would be to talk about a couple of the ways that we see this cloud go-to-market ecosystem working really well. And when DoiT began leaning in, we had a ton of partners that were all valuable in the ecosystem. And that level 2 and level 3 maturity has been us realizing that there are a couple of key partners that have the perfect overlay and the perfect crossover with us. And we're always looking when we meet partners to think about how can we address something that's out of scope, that's within their normal cadence, or how could they address something for our customers that's slightly out of scope for our normal cadence. So there's 100 people that probably want to partner with many of you today. And a lot of these examples draw back on that core point. So with Tackle, for example, there's a lot of customers that might approach Tackle that they might have a conversation with. And in that discovery, they might realize that the app really isn't ready for marketplace, or that the future state of the app is going to be much better suited for marketplace than where they're at today. So that's where Tackle might introduce customers to DoiT and say, hey, can you, before we push on this marketplace thing, let's first address the app modernization. For anyone who's been deep in the AWS ecosystem, you'll probably have heard of the ISV Accelerate program. And a core component or prerequisite of that is the foundational technical review. So that's something that DoiT does all day long. Like our senior cloud architects spend a lot of time in the AWS best practices providing context. So this is another area where we kind of figured out that AWS or Tackle or others might introduce us to customers because we can help with that particular piece. On the flip side, if you look in this kind of the second column of examples, we're always looking for ways that we can support this ecosystem. So on the second one, when our customers come to us and say, hey, how do we level up our marketplace go-to-market enablement? That's where we know that if you're not already being showcased in G2, or if you're not already leveraging some of Tackle's like data intelligence about propensity to buy with your existing pipeline, then that is going to be more actionable and more immediate return than something that DoiT might directly offer. So as you're thinking about how to put these things into practice, it's super important to think about where are these specific crossovers where what you do best has an immediate adjacency that can both feed you and give you the opportunity to work with other partners that all drive this cloud go-to-market success. So with Drata, similar. Like on the left, you can see that within DoiT Solve, we'll have a lot of security reviews, but at some point, it actually makes a lot more sense for us to refer a customer to a piece of technology that can help automate their compliance instead of a DoiT effort that's a really technical advisory. And similarly, if the Drata team gets asked a ton about security reviews that's maybe AWS specific, but not compliance automation specific, they might refer customers to us. So let's jump over to the next page or next slide. So some specific call to actions, what we've learned by doing this hundreds of times with ISVs globally is if you're pre-marketplace, number one piece of advice is find out from your internal stakeholders and leaders, what is the information they need and what is their current perception of this effort so that you can go gather that information and enroll folks on to your cause. So I know yesterday there was a lot of talk from the C-level perspective, but listen, like almost everyone here you're here because you're a high performer, and the cross-functional nature of go-to-market success in the cloud, it is going to expose you if you're not enrolling your entire team in this effort. So number one takeaway here is like, if your technical team, if you're C-level, if they don't have a shared vision for what we're up to, there's some very specific things that you can bring to them to help enroll them in this new vision, such as Tackle's offer to review, I think it's 250 or so leads for free just to show you the propensity to buy through the marketplace that you might not already have. So if you haven't already captured that information or that gotten similar information from G2, that you can take back to your executive team and say, here's why we really need full buy-in and a cross-functional team to accelerate this. That's like day one activity when this session is over. If you're post-marketplace, Sanjay mentioned this before, but having a conversation with your CFO, even something about like clarifying the renewal strategy, like how much faster could your team execute on existing business and reduce churn by taking a small hit on maybe the fee that you'll pay through the marketplace, but ultimately your velocity is going to be substantially higher. So my hope is that one of these things is a clear takeaway. Usually when we go through these with our customers one by one, we'll identify an immediate opportunity that costs you nothing, but has a exponential impact on your trajectory for the next quarter. Back to you, Sanjay.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. So one of the things that we predicted in our last State of Cloud Go-to-Market report at Tackle was that today's cloud go-to-market is really driven by a lot of incentives. Buyers are incented to draw down cloud-committed spend agreements with Google or Amazon or Microsoft. Sellers inside those cloud environments are incented with commission and quota retirement. ISVs are incented with special programs and MDF funds and everything else. But we actually think as cloud go-to-market continues to build to be a bigger and bigger percentage of overall B2B spend, that the real true inherent values in this are going to come out. And that's in becoming a massively efficient revenue channel. And when we look at the tech stack around that, it's actually pretty robust. And if you want your buyers to discover your products through a cloud and in a marketplace, what are you doing for buyer discovery? How are you stimulating that motion? Maybe ultimately you want to get to a PLG strategy. If you're in procurement, how do you shave time off of vendor onboarding? How do you shave time off of legal cycles? Like, there's some amazing tools out there to really optimize the entirety of the system. So I'm thrilled to have Kevin from Drata and Christine from G2 talk about how their organizations are helping ISVs maximize and accelerate this motion.
Cool. Thanks, Sanjay. Yeah. So Drata, like I said at the top of the session, Drata is a compliance automation SaaS provider. We are really helping companies focus on if they've never achieved SOC 2 or ISO or GDPR HIPAA before, many other frameworks, and then those that have but are trying to better maintain it on a continuous basis. Effectively, for those of you who have used like a mint.com, rest in peace because it's no longer on the Intuit platform anymore. But imagine with mint.com for budgeting, you're connecting your bank accounts to be able to pull in that data using Mint to continuously monitor to see how spending is going. And then you put in budget restraints to say, hey, if I go over $200 a month in gas, let me know. I don't want to do that. Drata is very similar. Your tech stack is your bank accounts. Your controls that lead up to making sure you're compliant are your budget things, just like Mint has, which is kind of serendipitous. Our SVP product, came from Intuit. He was actually the founding member of TurboTax Live on the product side. And so what Drata has built is this really clean, very easy to use UI that today is really focused on helping companies become compliant for the first time, or again, better maintain the existing compliance they already have. And that kind of speaks to what we've done in the first 3 years of being in the market. We've already signed over 4,500 customers. That has created a pretty big challenge for our finance team. So actually the impetus originally behind going into marketplace and getting rolling was driven by a number of factors, but finance surprisingly was a big one for us, because trying to be able to manage all those contracts, especially for our average customers, a lot of them are in the Series A, Series B space. They're not necessarily working with the channel yet, and they're moving so quickly that's something that we kind of work on getting them to at like the time of renewal. So these customers are buying through marketplace. Last year at reInvent, they featured 3 companies on the co-sell leaderboard. It was MongoDB, CrowdStrike, the 2 of those I think combined for about $100 billion market cap, and then Drata, which we're nowhere close to any of that. But the reason for that is because we're actually using Tackle, and a lot of what we're doing that we'll talk about here in a second to be able to sell to these companies who don't even have a committed spend. So whereas that's been traditionally, hey, get into marketplace, go up, sell to the Boeings and the USAAs that have committed spends with one of the cloud providers. 98%, I want to say, of the transactions we do through marketplace are companies that have no committed spend, have never bought through marketplace at all, may not even have a marketplace account yet, and are spinning those up to be able to work with Drata. Sanjay kind of talked about it at the top. When you're thinking about working with these marketplaces, with these cloud providers, you're either all in or you're not. There's really no in between. And so that's where Drata's gone all in with AWS and become kind of where we're at. We'll go to the next slide that talks more about how we're leveraging Tackle for that. If you go to the next slide here. So my background, I was formerly at Expanse. We got acquired by Palo Alto Networks. I've seen how at a large scale things are done with these cloud marketplace providers. I think the challenge becomes that really to win, you've got to get the field engaged. You've got to get your sellers winning in the field with the AWS sellers or Google or Microsoft. And so that means empowering them to do all of it. I have a team of two on my side that manage the AWS relationship. But the challenge becomes, even if we did 1,000 offers last year, we'll probably do 2,000 private offers this year. But even if you're doing 100 or so, if your team is the one responsible for getting all those offers out the door, that's challenging. One, from a resourcing perspective, but two, from the sales team is just not doing it. They're not actively engaging in it. And so what we've used Tackle to do a number of things. We'll just kind of start with scaling a marketplace. We've used the Salesforce integration to integrate with our CPQ system so that it's actually our sales team who's doing all the private offers, not the cloud alliances team under me. And that's helped us really create scale really quickly. It's got the team to buy in. It's got them knowledgeable in what they're doing. And then it allows them, because then we're using the co-sell integration with Tackle as well, to say, hey, let's have all of our pipeline getting pushed into ACE. And so when there's opportunities where a sales rep at AWS has an actual relationship with that customer and is active with them, we're bringing them into the opportunity to help us win. And again, that's where the propensity to buy, so that the whole top row really ties together, because it's very easy for us to then say, okay, we've got this propensity to buy data. It's medium or high in marketplace, which means they're spending enough that they're definitely going to have some type of account manager relationship with the AWS side. Those are the ones we're going to go focus on. And again, you'd be surprised that, a lot of us that have gotten into marketplace historically, we want to sell to Boeing. We want to go get that committed spend from some large enterprise customer. There's a lot more companies out there now in the 100 employees and up space that are really ready to go and doing a lot with AWS. I think the other thing to keep in mind, I'm okay giving away our trade secrets at this point because we're so far ahead. I'm not really worried about that slipping. For us, it's not about just winning mind share against our competitors. It's winning mind share against the rest of you, right? Because it's AWS can work with any vendor they want. It doesn't matter about the space. And so for us, being able to register all of our pipeline to become, in some cases, 10 to 20% of some of these AWS reps pipeline has been massive. But it's also because a lot of the reps we're going after, the startup and SMB reps, and nobody's asking for their time. Everybody's asking for the enterprise reps time, which is fine if that's your business. Obviously, you want to pursue that as well. But there's a big portion of the AWS sales team that nobody's trying to talk to right now. And that's where we've really cracked it open. Last year, we saw just over 400 net new opportunities sourced by AWS. Undoubtedly, you're going to get some AOs registered by them that aren't, in fact, net new. You've already got existing business there. But we had over 400 this year. We anticipate that being over 1,000. And again, that comes from getting your sales team engaged. Like our sales team literally owns the relationships with the AWS sellers. My team is facilitating that and helping manage it and enable it, but it's very much led in the sales side now, and it's become, for our sales leadership team, a primary value driver for what they're trying to do. And so again, like you talk about velocity, what we've been able to do very quickly. I don't think what we've been doing is that difficult when you're using Tackle because of the resourcing that we have. Again, I think those top three on the top row speak to what we've been able to do there. The automation, again, like making this a very easy experience for the sales team. That's what it should be. We've partnered with the two partners that you see on this call here, WT and DoiT. We've done CPPOs with both. So when you bring in the channel partner as well, it makes it even more dynamic and more impactful for the relationships you're doing. But again, like this all goes back to, I think there's a lot of other channel partners, not speaking to, obviously not WT and DoiT who have leaned in, but folks who haven't bought into CPPO yet that have kind of viewed AWS as competitive. And it's not. It is very much a 1 + 1 + 1 = 10 if you allow it to be. And I think that's where we've got this massive channel ecosystem. Channel partners source over 30% of our business as a company, and so being able to get all that kind of under the AWS umbrella of what we're doing has been massive. And again, tackles at the center of all of that to make sure that we're facilitating and not slowing anybody down on the sales side.
Awesome. Thanks. You always remind me that your native language is cloud go-to-market, Kevin. It's awesome to hear the passion there, buddy. All right, Christine, let's keep rolling.
Thanks, Sanjay. And Kevin, congratulations on your 711 very positive reviews on G2. Drata's doing great. All right, so for those who haven't heard of G2, G2 is the largest B2B software and services marketplace in the world. We have over 2.5 million peer reviews collected over the last few years. That is spread across 150,000 product listings across 2,100 categories. And every year, we host over 90 million buyers who have identified that they have a problem that they need to solve, come to G2 to try and find a solution and product that's right for their business, create a short list of vendors, compare those vendors, research their pricing, and validate their decisions through these trusted, verified reviews. At the end of it, G2 is where you go for software. And if you're a buyer, if you're looking for software, it's going to be where you need to go to do your research. And how we work with marketplaces is a very symbiotic relationship. G2 is where you go to discover and research, and then you go to the marketplaces to complete your transactions. And this is the reason why in our customer base, we have 100% coverage of Cloud 100 businesses, and as well as Fortune 500 customers. So if we could go to the next slide, Sanjay. Awesome. Perfect. And as a marketplace listing ourselves, we've leveraged Tackle throughout our journey to power us to where we are today, and we're really excited about that. I want to tell you a little bit more about how we all come together in this flywheel of cloud marketplaces. So G2 at the core of our business starts with your customer voice. Our goal is to amplify your customer voice so that it builds trust and transparency in the software purchasing process. And so that as a buyer, they can feel really, really good about the purchase decisions that they're making. So it all starts with reviews on G2. Now, what we do with those reviews is through my team, we syndicate those reviews across a dozen cloud marketplaces. I'll go into that in a little bit. But AWS, Microsoft Azure are a couple of cloud marketplaces that leverages G2 reviews to power their user and buyer engagements. Next, as your reviews are driving traffic and discoverability to your brand on G2, all of those traffic turns into buyer intent signals. And those buyer intent signals represent the 5% of prospects who are actually in market to buy today. When you pair those powerful buyer intent signals with Tackle's propensity data to show you who is actually likely to transact in the marketplace, you have a really complete picture of where your buyers are, who's ready, and how they purchase. And then lastly, as a base, all of this traffic, all of this data sits in our market intelligence platform that helps inform your business in their future go-to-market strategy, helping you yield more customers who will become future reviewers, who will continue to drive more traffic to your listings and continue to power your pipeline. And so goes the cloud flywheel that we continue to see. Next slide. So why we invest so heavily in cloud marketplaces is because every year we're seeing an increase in buyers going to cloud marketplaces as their preferred channel to purchase. We issue a buyer behavior research report every year. This year, ours will be coming out in June. But just as a sneak peek, we're seeing over the last year, we've seen a 5% increase, 5% point increase in the amount of buyers who prefer to go to cloud marketplaces to complete their purchase. And a very large portion of that increase is coming from the C-suite executives. So we're seeing that shift. We feel it internally. This is why we're listed on AWS. This is why we leverage Tackle for our go-to-market as well. And when we look at our review syndication, I talked about the 90 million buyers that go to G2 every year. When we amplify those reviews across the cloud marketplace ecosystem, that number doubles to 180 million annual buyers. And more specifically, when we dig into the impact of having G2 reviews syndicated into the marketplaces, we're seeing, for example, with AWS, a 13% higher likelihood to complete a purchase on any listing in AWS that has G2 reviews syndicated. So there's a power across the board when we all come together and help, just the same way as an ISV would leverage Tackle to build and scale your cloud go-to-market operations. You'll be going to G2 to help you with discoverability and building the buyer intent signals to drive that pipeline forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. I think pretty clear message. If you're selling in a marketplace, work with your marketing team, create raving fans, get a lot of reviews, and increase the likelihood for a buyer to buy. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
And finally, I'm going to toss it over to Jack French at WWT, an organization I've admired for a long time as a guy who's been running around in software and technology for a couple of decades. It's been fascinating over the last 6 or 7 or 8 years to watch traditional channels or traditional resellers turn into cloud solution providers. WWT was one of the first courageous partners to raise their hand to go on that mission. Jack's at the helm of it, and I'm excited for him to share what it means for ISVs and what the opportunity is for other channel partners as well.
Appreciate it, Sanjay. Thank you. And so for anyone not familiar with WWT, just quickly on our practice and WWT as a whole, we are privately held, headquartered in St. Louis, minority owned, 20 billion or so in annual revenue. 6 billion of that is international, so we truly are a worldwide global service provider. We manage billions of dollars of ISV spend and OEM spend every year. And so, as Sanjay mentioned, figuring out how to tackle the marketplaces and make sure that we were aligning with the cloud service providers years ago was extremely important for us. I think it was mentioned yesterday in the keynote, sellers want to sell where buyers want to buy. And that was a leading philosophy of ours years ago. For one, maybe even to protect our business, but two, just to make sure that we were where our customers needed us to be. For my cloud practice, what we focus on is, and I think someone mentioned it earlier, even in the comments, cloud go-to-market isn't just about building landing zones and migrating VMs and having a cloud presence. It really, at this point, is about integrating into all the different outcomes that we provide for customers across customer experience, to automation, to cybersecurity, to AI and data. Cloud is an implementation point that is leveraged across all of these different solutions. So it's important for my team to make sure that we understand what are the leading ISVs and OEMs and solutions that we can leverage to build good outcomes for our customers. And WWT is about 30 years old. They've got a long history of building long-standing relationships with partners. We're the number one partner for dozens of different leading ISVs and OEMs. And so making sure that our solutions are integrating with those partners to provide compelling and needed solutions for our customers is what we focus on. We primarily play in the enterprise space. So, 90+% of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500, and then in the public sector and SLED space, we have a pretty heavy presence. So, making sure that we understand the ecosystem of public, hybrid, and private, and how solutions can, play across all of those different cloud operating models is important for us. And one of the ways that we do that and differentiator for WWT is leveraging our Advanced Technology Center. And so in the next slide, you'll see here that the ATC, or Advanced Technology Center, is a differentiator for us. It truly is a multi-site data center. And so, why would the cloud guy care about a data center? But for us, every large enterprise customer is trying to figure out how to integrate their cloud strategy with years of investment that they've made with technology solutions across their technology landscape. And so in the ATC, we can build these integrated solutions. We can POC and POV them. I can mimic migration strategies down to the firmware version that they're coming off of in this environment. We've got connectivity to Equinix and all the major cloud service providers. And this environment allows us to be more than just a reseller or more than just a VAR. It's a place that we can truly show value added integrated solutions with our cloud service providers and our most trusted partners. So in this environment, you'll find labs that customers can spin up and see what, NetApp or Apollo or Wiz or whatever it may be looks like integrated into their solution, or we build custom environments on demand for our customers and our partners, to see again what these integrated solutions look like. We use this lab to, certify partners on cloud service provider hardware. So when Outpost was deployed, we were certifying partners for Outpost Ready, do Anthos and Azure Stack deployments. And so again, if you're not familiar with the ATC, or this is somewhere that you think that we could partner to help accelerate, your ISV or software solution, I'd be, interested in discussing more. But, as I go to the next slide here, and thanks, Sanjay, it's okay. So how do we leverage all those tools to really be impactful? And, everybody, I think before me has said it perfectly. I mean, the marketplace was scary for a lot of our field prior to us building some maturity in this space. And I had a regional manager tell me years ago that the cloud marketplace felt like a chainsaw that he could either take off his own leg or take down a bear with. And he didn't quite understand how to leverage, this powerful component of the marketplace. He was scared of it, but he knew that he needed to figure it out. And so what we've found is leveraging tackle data, we're able to get much more proactive. And when the field doesn't feel like they're reacting to last minute customer demand to shift to go to marketplace, or, can we procure this in a different way? It allows us to get much more strategic, to build comfort with the field, and to show them the true power that the marketplace can provide. We've been able to transact partners in a matter of hours that we don't even have paper with, because we can leverage, the joint paperwork with the cloud provider, instead of going through a 6-month onboarding process of some, new solution that maybe we haven't worked with before. And so all across the board, this ability to be more proactive, leveraging propensity data from Tackle, or, marrying it with our pipeline data in order to get out in front of deals, has created comfort, which just has exponentially grown our business. We did our first marketplace deal 5 or 6 years ago. We're now in the high 9 figures. I don't see any, slowing down, especially now that Google and Microsoft are both open for the channel. And without that propensity data, I don't know if we would be growing as fast. In addition to that, our relationship with our cloud service providers early on felt very competitive. Our field saw them as somewhat of a threat. And so getting our field comfortable with partnering with Microsoft, Amazon, Google, the Oracles, all the major CSPs took some doing. And having Salesforce integration, having a quicker line of sight to connecting with the cloud service provider sales teams has really helped us build trust and really kick off that flywheel of PO and AO and everything else that we want to see from the CSPs. And so Salesforce integration, automation of deal flow, propensity to buy data, it's just been critical for us in making our field more comfortable with partnering with the CSPs and opening up, their pipeline to them and what they've got going. But also it helps us get out in front of these deals, so we're layering on value-added professional services. If we're just a transactional arm, I don't think we're as valuable in the channel. And so we need to figure out, how can we get in front of these deals, figure out advisory, consultatory, or deployment services that we can attach to each one of these, ISV integrated solutions to get more sticky and provide value to customers. So again, we're not just a transaction arm, but hopefully that helps. Sanjay, I know we're running out of time, so I'll kick back to you.
That's awesome. Thanks to Jack, Christine, Kevin, Thomas. Love having you today. Really thrilled you're inaugural partners in our ecosystem. Thanks to the audience for being here to help us celebrate a project the team's been working on for quite some time. We're excited to bring it to life. We're more excited about what we're going to do together and more partners to come. Enjoy the rest of the day and the content. Next up is Maturity Model, delivered by Patrick and Aaron, I believe. An awesome session. Stay tuned, and thanks for coming to Cloud GTM XP. Have a great day.